So before I actually ever came into powerlifting or anything like that, I was doing like bikini,
Right.
like bodybuilding. That was my style of training until I kind of found weightlifting and powerlifting. So I still do have a bit of body dysmorphia from those days. Like when before I started competing, I was like I said, 46. I was shredded. Like I had a full 6-pack walking around easily. There wasn't like, that was it. It was simple. I had striations in my chest, in my shoulders. And like, if I tried to get that now, I'd probably I'd have to cut like a leg off to get the weight. But I don't know if I could manage walking around like that again. Just from the first time that I gained that weight, I hated how I looked. Like,
what was it? Like, what did you see in the mirror? Because I'm sure there's probably people telling you, no, you look great, like you look fine. So what was it that you, like, what is it you're seeing? Because I've had conversations here with James McLaughlin. I've had some of the super heavyweight guys. I had Shane on. Shane's quite a stoic person, so he seemed fine whether he was near 100 kilos or if he was near 70 kilos. But when people talk about body dysmorphia, I think it's like this catch-all term. So what did it mean for you? Like, what is it about yourself? Was it the way clothes fit? Was it the person you saw looking at you in the mirror? Was it the way you felt in your own skin? What was it?
It was primarily like how I felt my own skin, and then also kind of what I was seeing back in the mirror. Like I said, over the course of a couple of weeks, I had put on like 5-6 kilos. And for someone my height, that's huge. Like,
yeah.
And it didn't spread really. It kind of went to my head mostly and my stomach. And kind of like I carry most of my fat in like my upper back, my arms. So obviously like clothes weren't really fitting very well. Like obviously I had to go up sizes, which like I don't really care about clothes or clothes, but what number on a scale or a number on a shirt is not going to affect me. But it was like how I looked when I was doing like check-in photos.
Right.
Or how I looked when I was just walking around the gym. I was like, shit, I'm not lean anymore. It was the first time in my life I really, really stuck out to a bulk to the point where like I had no, like, I kind of looked like Mr. Potato Head. That's the only way I can describe myself. Like, I just looked out of shape.
Right.
And like, I'd never been to a gym in my life. And that's how I felt. And I was like, I don't want to be like this anymore.
Let me actually, this is actually an interesting talking point because I've had the lads sitting opposite me here that are like super heavyweight lifters. Like, if you didn't know they were powerlifters, you would think they were just fat fuckers that sat at home all day, you know? So when we talk about optics in the sport, because you were saying, like, you notice, geez, I'm not fucking lean anymore. I fucking don't even look like I train. Like, and I'm glad to see powerlifting is shifting in a way because we are seeing more people that are genuinely athletes. In fact, I will give you an example right now that is, it's quite a big compliment to you, actually. I presented a workshop to FlyFit, the staff, in February 2022. And I put together...
I think, I remember this.
Yeah, so I put together this slideshow. And part of the slide was to, at one point towards the end, I was kind of dispelling some myths about powerlifting. Like all powerlifters do is squat, bench, and deadlift. I was like, no, this depends on the block of training you're in, blah, 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 blah. And then one of the other ones was that essentially all powerlifters are just like fat dudes, fat people that just, sit around and take 15-minute breaks in between sets on their fold-out chairs, So I gave them the example of male and female international athletes that are in very healthy body compositions. So for the males, I used Mark Stell and Cian Madden. And then for the females, I used Jane Jones and yourself. So this was to show, again, these are regular PTs, many of them either from a GAA background, bodybuilding background, they know nothing about powerlifting, just the stereotype. And then for that stereotype, and this is not calling anybody out, I just use as the stereotype of what they'd imagine when they think of a stereotypical powerlifter. You've got people like Eamon Harford and like Laura Vogelsang. And I was using these as examples. Again, it's not to the detriment of anybody else, but it's to show that, like that, you can maintain a healthy body composition and still perform at a high level. Now, obviously, there's the difference there of tested and untested and things like that, but still, to give it a more generalized point, is it a priority for you as an athlete to maintain a certain degree of leanness then, even in a sport where it's not really required like powerlifting? Is it important to you as a person to say, well, while powerlifting is this big piece of my life, I don't want to become a big fat mess for it. Like, I want to be somebody who is in shape or is an athlete, or the value in how I look is in other parts of my life, so I don't want to sacrifice this to get a couple more kilos here?
So I've never really felt that like, I have to look a certain way. Now, like, we're Irish. We don't have the best genetics
We do not.
for sports like these.
Number one.
Like realistically, like who were our two best like lifters or powerlifting was Barry Piggott and Brona McPeak.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can easily say Barry was genetically gifted looking at him. Same with Brona. So when you kind of compare a lot of the other Irish lifters to them, like they were a high standard back then, and they still hold that today.
Yes,
their totals still stand today, which says a lot. Like they were far ahead of their time before a lot of us were. So when I kind of see that, I was like, okay, I may not have the best genetics, but I know the foods I like to eat do tend to put me in a position where like, okay, I can actually look well as well. So like myself and Katrina were talking, she was like, okay, you need to get in like 3 square meals a day. Now those 3 square meals were like, I'd have just under 2,000 calories in 3 meals.